launch of Star Trek Voyager continues with host Majel Barrett Roddenberry.
Yeah, Michael Westmore has run Alien Central from his makeup lab on the Paramount lot since he signed up for a tour of duty on Next Generation 7.5 years ago. Oh, this third-generation Hollywood makeup artist still cooks up the creatures for each and every Star Trek project. Now, he's been working on Voyager since last July, and here's a sneak peek at some of the results.
Neelix, good to meet you.
The aliens on Voyager all have to be new because we wound up in a different part of space that they're trying to come back from. And one of our main characters here is Neelix, who's a Talaxian. And with a Neelix character, in my original thoughts for him, and it was the last one I designed for the new show, I had in mind something between, to get the feel of a warthog and a meerkat. With the Ocampas, which is Kess, and the Ocampa ear is a small ear like this that kind of fits back at an angle, at a 45-degree angle, back across the head.
Michael Westmore's aliens are uniquely and distinctly Star Trek. And the reason is simple. Gene Roddenberry wanted his aliens to always possess some degree of humanity so that viewers could more easily relate to these strange-looking individuals. And I believe Michael Westmore is doing an incredible job carrying out Gene's wish.
Our characters aren't really copied, or we're not trying to copy somebody else. With Gene Roddenberry's edict of wanting to see the humanity in the face, we always try to leave something. No matter how big a mask may be, there still gets very thin down around here where if they smile or they do something, it comes through.
Action, please.
One challenging aspect of Westmore's job is showing actors how to befriend their prosthetics. After all, many aren't used to wearing a large slab of rubber on their face during a performance.
Learning how to use a mask is something that has been very exciting for me, because when you're working inside of it, you don't know how much of you is getting swallowed up, how much bigger or smaller you have to make it, but the kinds of adjustments that you need to do. And then as you learn to live in it, it actually gives you liberties to explore things in a much broader fashion.
This is where the process of constructing an alien mask begins. Makeup artist Gil Mosco mixes liquid foam rubber, adds dye, shoots it into a mold, heats it, and hopes for the best. Aha! It's a perfect Ferengi.
The quality of this foam has a stretchiness and a believability. It's not stiff like the older things from the 50s. If you remember old horror movies, when you saw creatures or monsters, they always looked like they were wearing a thick rubber suit. And here we try and make them look like it grew that way.
Every principal alien character gets a new mask each week of production. And when you consider the time and effort that goes into creating each individual mask, it's easy to see why Michael Westmore has made himself indispensable to Star Trek.
We try to get several days' use out of them because it takes so long to prep this, to put the paint on it. Each one of these dots is hand-painted in here with an airbrush, and it takes a while to do one, and we paint up two at the same time.
Gene always said, when we reach utopia, we'll have infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Sticking with that simple belief has kept the aliens of Star Trek the best in any universe. Meanwhile, in the bustling Star Trek wardrobe department, Robert Blackman and his staff have been hard at work, sketching designs, cutting cloth, and stitching the fabric for the Voyager costumes. And they run the gamut from functional to flamboyant.
One of the characters that we have in Voyager, our regular ones, is Neelix, who is an alien. And when we first see him in the pilot, he's actually in a ship in which he's scavenging. The coat is my favorite because it is this very weird fake fur. We only use fake fur. And we do all of this with sort of weird things with soap and gesso and all kinds of other things to make it look like it's old, and then overpaint it and overdye it.
It's good to see you too, Chakotay.
Certainly the hardest thing, which I've said a lot, is doing just the Starfleet civilian clothes. It's the hardest thing to do. And I always kind of get those, oh, pajamas, no, not pajamas, don't do pajamas on me again this week.
Even Starfleet officers get to unwind once in a while and slip into some off-duty apparel. Viewers can catch a glimpse of Captain Janeway in a pair of pink silk pajamas. In one upcoming episode of Voyager,
the point is what I'm trying to do is we see this woman so much in very tailored, very sort of uniformed, mannish, in a way, clothing, that when we get to her as a woman in just regular clothing, I don't want it to be overly provocative, but I want it to be very feminine and essentially have a certain sensuality about it, so that we realize that she is, you know, just an average human being on the planet with the same drives and so on and so forth as anyone else.
Star Trek's wardrobe department is actually larger than Paramount Studios' main wardrobe department. That's because the Star Trek world demands around 1,000 costumes a year. Now, the makeup and wardrobe work are examples of the effort that is going into making Voyager fresh and exciting. Because in the Star Trek universe, the look of the entire show is always a top priority. And as luck would have it, during our visit, Next Generation star LeVar Burton was back on the bridge, directing an episode of Voyager.
Very quiet. Just the words. Just the words.
The starship USS Voyager is an Intrepid-class vessel capable of holding 200 crew members. And though it's a lot smaller than the Enterprise on Next Generation, which carried over 1,000 people, it's one of the fastest and most powerful starships in Starfleet.
If you look at Next Gen's bridge, it's kind of a wood grain, homey feel, sort of a rustic cabin kind of thing, a cottage, and then you come into here, it's like gunmetal gray, you know, it's very inspiring, you know? And anytime I bring anybody onto the set to visit, first thing, you know, I go, and this is the bridge. I bring them around the corner, and there's like this gasp of like, wow.
It appears there's much to hold our visual interest on the interior of the ship. But what about out there, in space?
Paramount is not cutting any corners in order to make this show fit into a smaller box just because of rising costs. I can guarantee you that the technical effects are the cutting edge, the most advanced, and I think that in terms of the problems of cost, we're very lucky that Paramount has supported us with the budget we've got.